three that are at the top tier issues. One is obviously the sales process. It takes a fairly sophisticated sales executive to really be able to articulate properly the value propositions of the alternative models and how a customer gets from one type of deployment to another type of deployment, and does that with very little friction, which is a term that's been used here quite a bit today. So that's one. Marketing is another, to have a very simple expression of a very complicated, potentially complicated technical issues. So getting the value propositions clearly established. We developed white papers, and more than white papers, really operational papers that really stepped customers through what to expect, and then what were the return on investments, or what were the alternative total cost of ownership of one approach versus the other approach, and that has been extremely effective. The third area that has been very much a challenge, but also has been very rewarding for us, is we had to really shift our mindset into, and a little bit of the cultural DNA, to be an extension of the enterprise. So when we go to, for instance, Michigan, literally our teams could walk through the office wearing Michigan State jerseys or whatever, but literally they've got to be the extension of that enterprise. Same for Kodak, same for American Express, as if they were on those teams, so that that customer feels that we really are, there's that strong nexus between their team and internally and externally. So those are really the three areas that we focused on, and it's paid big dividends.
So since you went down the path of sales and the rest, Jeff, that's your world. You're trying to sell these alternatives, offer up these options to customers. How do you properly incent, but also how do you properly manage the sales process and the delivery process that follows up that?
Well, it is tricky changing the mindset of a sales force that's used to selling big enterprise class perpetual license deals and being compensated in the traditional way you would expect, to a much faster moving, smaller deal size with, it's service based, and it's not a delivery based system where you give somebody a bunch of software on a CD or through some connection to us. So we evolved to it by first giving dual goals, by making essentially selling what we call ACV, annual contract value, equal to selling a perpetual license, so that your compensation, you wouldn't suffer under the compensation regime. And that got us kick-started. But at the end, and we went through about 3 years of a mixed bag, where we had our account executives able to sell both sides of the fence. We had some account executives that could only sell the on-demand system, because we knew that's where we wanted to go to get to this recurring revenue stream. And the recurring revenue stream is what the market rewards typically in valuation for your company. So that's, the more we can shift our revenue stream to that form of revenue, the more our company ultimately is worth. So eventually in the last quarter, we moved away completely from the perpetual license model. We still do business on premises, but we do it with a term-based license instead of a perpetual license, which further equalized the revenue piece upon which the sales force is rewarded, which really focused the sales force. And we just announced about 15 minutes ago our results for the quarter, and we had the best revenue bookings quarter than we've had in probably a year. And it was because we focused even further on emphasizing the on-demand and recurring revenue aspects of our delivery system. And we expect that's going to continue to bear fruit as we emphasize it more and more, and continue to deliver new products that can be easily consumed in the on-demand world. And then as those products are consumed in the on-demand world, moving them to the extent that they're desired into the on-premise world, that they can, where people, if they have to have it on-premise and put it on their servers, can do so.
So, of course, there was probably brilliant sales management involved.
Of course, that's all. I'm sure that was entirely it.
But despite that, the fact is that when you're offering greater choices,
Yes.
I guess it makes it a lot easier to find a sales opportunity.
Well, it does, but at the same time, the more you load on to an existing sales force, there is a little bit of deer in the headlights confusion that can come as a result of that. So you have to be, it's a careful balancing act. You know, how fast do you release the new products? How fast can your sales force, how fast can your developers develop them? And then how fast can your sales force articulate the value to your customers out there in the world? And then, you know, you've got all the legal and other aspects of contracting for them and any other things that come to speed.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
Jeff, can you talk about how that might have changed the conversation with a customer, having a premise-based software solution versus software as a service,
Sure.
as far as operational resiliency and
we have
business continuity?
Right. So there's a couple of points. First, probably a quarter of our on-demand customers were on-premise customers. We actively looked for places to convert those customers as they came up to natural points. Like in our business, people do new comp plans every year. That's a natural point where you can actually say, hey, how about we take the keys from you guys and we'll run it for you. And you can just use the software. You don't have to worry about all the technical aspects of it. Just use it. Do your plans, do your reports, just use it. Or when it's time for an upgrade, which is another place where it can be, you know, it's enterprise class software, it can be a little bit painful to do the upgrades. You upgrade once into on-demand, then it's done. We do them all for you from there. And usually, if you can prove that you can safeguard the data and you can make their lives easier because all of these customers already bought our software, they like it. You know, they don't always want to run it, but they do like to use it. Having that conversation with them at the appropriate point is actually not a difficult thing to do. Sometimes you run into a little IT, protectionism. Hey, am I going to lose my job? But that's happening, just like the data security issues. That's happening much and much less frequently as more and more enterprise class customers get used to doing business in the cloud.
So, a question.
I had a question. I believe I understood you to say that you bridged one of the bridges you built between a perpetual license or on-premise versus on-demand was to move perpetual to a term license. Now, how did you do that, and how did that help? How did you get the customers to accept that I'm going to pay you X dollars and get a perpetual license versus Y dollars and get a term license?
Well, we stopped offering the perpetual license. There are a few customers that we still have in the sales cycle right now, which we are going to continue to deal with it, but that's going to become less and less. But we didn't do it. There are parts of the world that still want that, and we do have resellers in South America. We signed up another one in Africa this last quarter. And there are parts of the world where we still do business that way because that's what they expect, but it's a very small part of our business. And then in terms of the pricing, we just make it so much more cost effective for folks to buy a term license than to buy a perpetual license that the financials they scream at you to buy the term license.